Last night, Gary Trent Jr. put up a career-high 44 points on 17 for 19 shooting. So, 3 weeks after the trade for Norman Powell, is it safe to say Masai Ujiri is an absolute genius with this trade? Let's get into it. Welcome Raptors fans to Amateur Hour Sports. This is a channel where you get NBA content with a focus on the Toronto Raptors. We do 4 to 5 Raptors themed videos a week on the channel. So if you like what you see from today's video and you want more of myself talking about the Raptors in content just like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Also, you can follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Amateur Hour Sports, where we watch along every single Raptors game, including the one tonight against the New York Knicks. We had a great time watching along the game yesterday as the Raptors ran wild against the Cleveland Cavaliers, so make sure you don't miss the one tonight. Links are in the description. But today, we're talking about Gary Trent Jr., and why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we? He's already had 2 career highs since joining the Toronto Raptors. This time, he trumps it and goes up to 44 points on absolutely sensational shooting. Again, I will reiterate, 17 for 19 from the field, 89.5% shooting. Plus, he was 7 for 9 from 3, which means he did not miss a single 2-point shot, and he took a lot of very difficult mid-range opportunities. He was absolute cash all night, just absolutely exploded, willed the Raptors to that humongous lead in the second quarter, and even when it was kind of going south a little bit in the third quarter, pulled it back and started hitting the shots again in the fourth quarter to produce an absolutely unbelievable performance, even without Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, and Kyle Lowry available to play for this game. So I'm saying that this trade looks better every single day. And I'll be honest, when this trade first happened and we traded Norman Powell for Gary Trent and Rodney Hood, I didn't like it. It took me a few hours to kind of go, okay, I can understand why they're making this trade. Gary Trent is younger, maybe has a little bit more potential, maybe he's going to be a little bit cheaper in the offseason compared to Norman Powell, but I have completely 180'd since that happened because Gary Trent Jr. looks like an absolute star for the Raptors at 22 years old, no less. And it looks like since Norman Powell left, I would have liked to have kept Norman Powell, but obviously understand the trade because Gary Trent is playing out of his mind and he fits in really well with this Raptors core because guys like Siakam love slashing to the rim, and that's where Siakam gets a lot of his points. And since this trade was made, Siakam has been on an absolute tear. Norman Powell was also a player who liked to slash to the rim a lot, but Gary Trent stays out of that area. He's the guy who's shooting threes, shooting in the mid-range, leaving the paint a little bit more open for the guys like Pascal Siakam, who again didn't play tonight, but Gary Trent made up for that big time with his performance. But his play style kind of caters to Pascal Siakam, where Siakam likes to get in the paint, Gary Trent stays out of the paint. It's a little bit more space for Siakam, and we know that Siakam thrives when he's got that space on the interior, and he starts to struggle a little bit when the paint is getting clogged up. So Gary Trent complements him a little bit better than Norman Powell. Now, again, Gary Trent at 22 years old, he's going to be a restricted free agent at the end of the year. Norman Powell is going to be a UFA at the end of the year. And Norman Powell playing with the Trailblazers, I don't imagine he's going to re-sign with the Trailblazers because he's had a little bit of problems since joining the Trailblazers. He's been fine. He's been good. Portland fans love him. Norman Powell's been playing, particularly well, but it's not quite up to that insane level he was producing for the Toronto Raptors. And the reason for that is Terry Stotts, the Portland Trailblazers coach, just doesn't know how to utilize him correctly. He would rather have Norman Powell as a guy who's just sitting on the three-point line, waiting for a catch-and-shoot opportunity, and not really giving him the license to do his thing. And with the Raptors, when he was doing his thing, he was putting up damn near 30 points per game on 50, 45, 90 shooting. So Norman Powell is a guy who deserves to get the ball, and you get out of his way. But on a team with CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard, Terry Stotts elects to just feed it to those guys and only runs plays for those players. Now, looking at Norman Powell, how he's kind of struggling a little bit, nothing crazy, just a little bit. He's just not quite up to what we know he can produce with the Trailblazers. And the reason for that is being underutilized or even not utilized correctly. And kind of started to piece together yesterday that Gary Trent, when he was with the Portland Trailblazers, was averaging like 40% shooting from 3, but only like 41% shooting from the field. So it made him look like a catch and shoot kind of guy from the outside. And sure, playing for Portland, maybe that's exactly his role. Maybe that's the role that Terry Stotts exactly gave Gary Trent Jr. to play with the Blazers, because Dame and CJ require so much of the ball handling opportunities. Now that Gary Trent is playing with the Raptors and he has license to be himself, he has the license to do what he wants with the ball. He can ball handle, run it, go into pick and roll, shoot from mid-range, sometimes gets to the rim, but all these things that Gary Trent is now being allowed to do is making him so much of a better player. It's making him so much more lethal on the court, and I'm just starting to pick up that it's all down to Portland's coaching. Terry Stotts for not using Gary Trent correctly in the first place, because Gary Trent clearly has the ability to do this on night in, night out basis, but he wasn't doing this for Portland like he's doing it for the Raptors. Now, again, the Portland Trailblazers have CJ McCollum, Damian Lillard, who require so much of the ball, but it is very evident statistically that Gary Trent was not utilized to the best of his ability with the Portland Trailblazers system, because Norman Powell, who is now with them on the Trailblazers, is doing the exact same thing and is having the exact same sort of struggles that Gary Trent was having. Gary Trent comes into the Raptors, he's given the green light to do as he pleases, shooting threes, pulling up in mid-range where he's wet. I typically don't like the mid-range shooting opportunities, but Gary Trent continues to knock them down, and it is clear that he is a guy that you can give that green light to in the mid-range to knock down those shots. So this is where we look at the absolute genius trade pulled off from Masai Ujiri, because Norman Powell, great player, probably would have stayed with the Raptors in free agency, but I think he would have fetched around 20 to 22 million. And Norman Powell is 28 years old, about in the prime of his basketballing ability. I think that Norman Powell's, volume going up, shooting a lot more, just shows you that he's always had this sort of talent. But I don't know if he can reach anything extra beyond this. I think that, shooting 50, 40, 84 and getting like 22 points per game, that's about the max output I think Norman Powell can realize in the NBA. But Gary Trent is 22 years old, 6 years younger than Norman Powell, already a better defender than Norman Powell, like by a considerable degree a better defender than Norman Powell, plus already has these great tools on offense. Gary Trent has a much higher ceiling than Norman Powell. And now I love Norman Powell. I'm not trying to bash Norman Powell. That's not what this video is about. But Gary Trent has this insane ceiling that he's already a better defender, and I think he can turn into a better offensive threat than Norman Powell as well. 6 years of difference. There is clearly a better ceiling for Gary Trent. And Masai Ujiri saw this from the beginning. This is why, when I don't like the trade, when I don't like some of the Raptors doing, I look at Masai Ujiri and go, that is the man I have absolute faith in to make the right decisions for this franchise. And I continue to say this. Have faith in Masai, because he knows more than you. He knows more than me. He knows more than any of us. He is in these positions to make the right decisions for the franchise, and he has continuously done that. Sure, there were a bit of problems in trading for a big man before the deadline, signing a big man in the offseason leading up to the season. That put us in a position of peril. And sure, the front office, I'm sure they've recognized themselves that they had a bad offseason. That's part of the reason why the Raptors are struggling so much in this current season. But on the whole, Masai Ujiri is almost always on the money with these sort of decisions, whether it be trades, whether it be signing players in the offseason. Just didn't quite work out this season, but this is something that could make up for it very much so in the future, because Gary Trent looks like an absolute star. The start of the season, Portland offered him a 4-year contract worth about $14.2 million a year, something in that ballpark, and he turned it down because Gary Trent wanted to bet on himself, go into restricted free agency and earn a little bit more money. And it looks like that decision is going to be paying off for Gary Trent, because I think he's going to be worth about $17 to $18 million a year. The Raptors are going to be the team to give him that money. He's handcuffed to them with the restricted free agency. The Raptors are absolutely going to pay him. They're going to build around him. It just strengthens this young core we had already with OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam to build around. Now, add in Gary Trent to that mix of players to build around. All these guys need, because the positions are so balanced now, Fred at the point guard, Trent at the shooting guard, Anunoby at the 3, Siakam at the 4. All these guys need are a serviceable center plus some bench pieces to come off the bench and add some scoring, and they're going to be right back in the playoff mix in the Eastern Conference next year. Absolutely genius from Masai to recognize all this untapped talent and untapped potential from Gary Trent playing with Portland. also getting Rodney Hood involved in the deal. I would have liked to get a second as well in this deal, but looking at it now, Gary Trent is a sensational talent that was just being underutilized by the Portland Trail Blazers. He's got a very high ceiling. He's got a lot of room to grow. And again, it's just another case of Masai Ujiri being himself, knowing how to fleece the other team, knowing how to get the best out of every single deal. And maybe that's why he decided not to trade Kyle Lowry in the end, because there just wasn't the return he was satisfied with. And I guess we're going to have to live with that, because decisions like this is why you put your faith in Masai Ujiri to run this franchise, to get the trades, to get the players in place, to be successful in the short term, to be successful in the long term. So again, I just want to reiterate, I was super wrong about this one. I was unhappy about this trade at the beginning, but it's looking better and better every single day. Every time I see Gary Trent play for the Toronto Raptors, I like this trade even more. And Portland are probably going to be looking at this trade with a little bit of regret, because I doubt Norman Powell re-signs with them in unrestricted free agency. Rodney Hood, it's a team option next year for the Raptors. He won't be back. Gary Trent is going to be staying with the Raptors. And looking at this next year, Portland will have traded away Gary Trent for half a season of Norman Powell, where they didn't use him properly. And I don't really think that this trade put the Portland Trail Blazers over the top as a contender in the Western Conference. So I think they're going to be looking back on this one with a little bit of regrets when Gary Trent is balling with the Raptors over the course of the next 4 years. Obviously, we can't really predict the future, how well Gary Trent is going to play, but if anything we've seen recently is a sign of things to come. At only 22 years old, Gary Trent Jr. is destined for great things, and it's also looking like he's that closer and that cold-blooded killer that the Raptors have been lacking. The guy you can stick the ball in his hands and he can go out and get you a bucket. Sure, he's had some poor games for the Raptors where he's not shooting well, but my goodness, it takes a talented player to go out there and shoot 17 for 19 from the field, 7 for 9 from 3, 44 points while playing some great defense along the way. Gary Trent is a special player. Masai recognized that before any of us. That is why he's the genius. We have to put faith in him. I believe in Masai. So do you guys share the same thoughts with me about this trade? Do you think that this Gary Trent trade was an absolutely genius move pulled off by Masai Ujiri? I want to hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. But that wraps it up for me for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, please make sure to like the video if you like, to help us reach some new viewers, and subscribe to Amateur Art Sports for more content just like this. Also remember, we stream on Twitch for every single Raptors game. We watch along, twitch.tv/Amateur Art Sports. We're watching along the Raptors versus the New York Knicks tonight. It was a super fun time yesterday. It's going to be a very fun time tonight, so make sure you are there for that. At the end of the day, I believe what I say. If you disagree, that is okay. We'll see you again next time for another video.